On the show all the time, we're always talking about politics, and it seems like everything that is dark and sad about this world. But today I would like to talk about a little bit of a feel-good glimmer of hope story that's going on in the world today. And I would like to talk about a place called Morgan's Wonderland in San Antonio, Texas. This is an amusement park, but not just any amusement park. It's an amusement park that is solely dedicated to being disability accessible for anyone and everyone who wants to go.
Morgan Hartman was born with physical and cognitive disabilities. For years, though, she lacked a diagnosis. One thing she did have was a happy spirit. Her dad, Gordon Hartman, never wanted to see that spirit dulled, but unfortunately, at times it was.
In 2006, we were on a family vacation where I watched Morgan not be able to participate in a pool activity with three other children, and it was simply because she was not able to be verbal. It almost puts a lump in your throat because it gives you a very sad feeling that all Morgan wanted to do was to participate. She just wanted to play.
After seeing his daughter excluded, Hartman started on a quest to create a space where no one felt left out. His idea? An inclusive theme park. He had experience as a builder and enlisted help from other experts to turn his dream into Morgan's Wonderland. Hartman says the San Antonio theme park isn't just for people with disabilities. And for people who can't get their electric wheelchairs wet, don't worry. Hartman and his team thought of that.
We have a wheelchair valet. You go from your wheelchair to a wheelchair that's been specially built to the size that you need. And if you're in a battery operated wheelchair, we actually give you a pneumatic wheelchair, which works off compressed air. It works underwater.
Gordon and Maggie Hartman decided that they wanted to build an all-inclusive amusement park for people like their daughter, and they decided that they wanted to make a place that was inclusive for everybody and gave anyone that had a disability the chance to enjoy the same things that we as a society take for granted today because it's completely overlooked. So Gordon, being the entrepreneur that he was, bought an abandoned quarry and decided that this is where he wanted to build this amusement park. It opened in 2010 and has been open ever since, and they've been adding things every year, including an all-inclusive water park, a camp, a multi-assistance center, and even an all-inclusive sports center that provides kids with wheelchairs and physical disabilities the chance to play the same sports that we all get to play today, but we take for granted for anyway. And if I'm being quite honest, it looks like a place that I would totally love to go to and enjoy, and their tickets are reflecting their purpose that they want to do, and that is to just make sure that everyone has a place that they can go, that they feel included, and so $13 to $19 is honestly pretty inexpensive. Between this and going to Six Flags, I would totally love to go support a place like this today.
If they have like little toddlers that just want to kind of be in the water, but not a whole big pool, right? Perfect spot for it.
Absolutely, absolutely. So yes, if you don't want your child to be in a pool, we have the terrific environment for that because it's just a lot of splash and play elements that allow kids to have fun and to be safe as well.
Okay.
In 2023, we are all about cultural change and being new with the times. But if I'm being completely honest right now, I don't see the change that actually would make a positive impact on our community, especially with a very large part of our world's population, because 1.3 billion people are literally disabled. When I look around at our town and our cities and our courthouses and even our playgrounds, how many of these different places that people need to go every day to live their everyday lives are actually accessible for people with disabilities? More and more recently, as I grew up, I remember very, very rarely seeing disability and wheelchair accessible playgrounds. They're becoming more popular, but they're definitely not the norm. And in today's society, we're all about attending and catering to certain groups of people. I would just like to throw out there maybe the LGBTQ community. We cater to them quite frequently, when arguably you could say that being LGBTQ, some of them say that that identifies as a crutch or a disability for them, but for the people who have physical and mental disabilities that they have that became that way, that was completely out of their control, we sort of cast them aside and say, you guys figure it out for yourselves. Now, I will say that there are now laws in place that require buildings and grocery stores and courthouses to be, let's say, wheelchair accessible. But are they really? I see video after video of women going into the bathrooms, the wheelchair accessible bathrooms, and not being able to use the lavatories like they were supposedly designed for. Or seeing college campuses that were older buildings, so they don't have elevators, but instead of making a wheelchair accessible ramp, you have these metal contraptions at 45-degree angles that you would have to drag your friends up these ramps to even get to their classrooms that they're supposed to go to. And speaking of my own personal experience, I have had friends who were in wheelchairs, and I can personally attest to the fact that when we would go places with them and go do things, that the places that we went to, even though they were all built modern, so they're not necessarily old buildings that don't have the ability to be wheelchair accessible, but their version of wheelchair accessible was in fact not the case. Bathrooms. I mean, come on. Every girl out there, y'all all know that every single bathroom that was designed by a guy never actually works the way it's intended to. It's already bad for us. But for us females, or the females who are in a wheelchair, it's even 10 times worse for them. Talk about going into a movie theater with your friends who are in a wheelchair, and you have these little wheelchair sections and rows. Half the time, the walls and the security bars, especially when you're a shorter person and to begin with in a wheelchair, you can barely see what's going on because of these obstructions that are built in the way. The word accessible doesn't actually mean what it's supposed to today. So here's an amazing story about a dad who saw a legitimate problem in society, and he decided that he would be the change that he wanted to see for not only his daughter, but people alike his daughter, and to open it up to everyone. So families and friends of people who have cognitive and physical disabilities can enjoy their life together. And I would love to see this be a more positive and normal change, and for this to be simply just another day in our world. How come we can't spend money where it actually benefits and helps our community? I would love to see more places be accessible for people with disabilities, because at the end of the day, these are our brothers and sisters. Isn't it our job to care for them? Coming from the Christian perspective over here, the Bible tells us that we are to care for the orphans, the needy, and the widows. And I would like to see us as a community doing a better job at that. If not just because it's the right thing to do, then let's try to help our better man, because, well, it's the right thing to do, and I shouldn't have to make a reason or a point for that. Simply, then, it is. This place only exists because a dad loved his daughter so much that he wanted to make a positive change for her and people like her in his community. I would love to see happen in more places all across America. Besides the fact that we are just down like flat broke, our government doesn't need to be involved with these cultural positive changes in our community today. I don't need the government to tell me that I need to be kind and nice to my neighbor, and I should probably turn my lights off when I leave the room, and that, hey, maybe don't be abusive to your animals and to the people around you. I would rather see that change come from people and places and things. I like to think of the verse from the Bible, do unto others of what you would have them do to you. And what better way to do this than to spread positive light in what is very honestly just a very bleak and dark world that we live in today, when all that you see on the news is talk about World War III and the recession and the food shortages and shootings and everything else that's going on. It's cool to see that places like this exist, that are little places of light in an absolutely dark world that we live in today. And it's all just because somebody saw a need for something in their community and decided that they were the ones who were going to be able to make that change. And I think everyone out there has the capability of doing the same thing. Maybe not on as big of a scale as creating an all-inclusive amusement park, but maybe it just starts with being kind to your fellow man, paying for the guys behind you coffee, or even just opening the door for someone. A little bit of kindness goes a long way, and I think we as a society has forgotten all about that. And if you guys would like to donate to them or support them a little bit, they're in San Antonio, Texas. But if you would like to donate, you can go to morganswonderland.com to go support something as amazing as this.